Hello, my friend, and welcome back to the Brightworks and another match of Beyond All Reason, where today we're jumping into everybody's favorite, most beloved map of all time, Supreme Isthmus. Yeah, it's time that we take a look at a game that was recently played on probably, I think it's definitively the most popular map in the map pool currently. It's the unseeded king of the map contest, I guess, the player rate map contest, I guess you could call it. Anyways, today spawning is the red team leader, Asaro, and Armada commander, clocking in at 25 open skill and gonna be showing us what they've got. This is an all-welcome lobby, or a game pulled from an all-welcome lobby, so it's definitely gonna be a little bit of a learner's experience. Should be good stuff, especially if you're a little bit newer to the game, to maybe take a look at this match and see exactly what you can see in this game that you might, be able to reflect into your own gameplay. Little improvements, little niche things that you can change to make yourself ever so stronger a combatant. At least that's what I always try to do. I still consider myself a newbie, despite being, 30 open skill or so and decent at the game, I would say. I still feel like I can relate a lot to the easy mistakes that you can make when you're first learning out in the game. Especially when I'm trying to play factions that are technologies, different tech paths, different routes, all that sort of stuff that maybe I'm not as familiar with. Anywho, let's meet our blue team commander, Ral Corvan. Ral Corvan, the Cortex commander here, going to be the blue Cortex commander going up against the red Armada commander. Kind of cursed. Yeah. Usually Arm is blue and Core is red. That's how it goes. That's how it's always been. It's the time-old tradition. And apparently not going to be the case today. So, one of the other things was I noticed that the replay timer on this was actually relatively short. A lot of times the lower league games can tend to go a bit longer because it's a little bit less familiar. Some of the players are a little bit less familiar with how to end the game in a timely manner, right? That's fair, that's fine, that's all well and good. But to see a match that ends in around 30 minutes on a learner's level lobby, yeah, certainly something interesting is going to be happening here. Oh! The the Maroon Commander making some interesting plays. Going to be going out into the water to claim metal extractors. Okay, well, talk about a learning experience. The Maroon Commander in for a bit of a strange surprise here to learn that this is absolutely off meta right now. This geothermal has essentially been put to waste. The Maroon Commander, Grin 18, maybe a little unfamiliar with sort of some of the standards for when you spawn in that geothermal position. Typically speaking, Grin, if I'm addressing you right now, typically speaking, when you spawn in this geothermal position, your goal is to get this geothermal up as quickly as possible. 300 energy per second for 500 metal is the most efficient energy production there is in the game total. It means that getting this geothermal up and running will offer your team quite a lot of value, just in overall energy income. Now, that isn't to say that there's not flexible strategies you can go for. You can get that geo up and just play some T1. You can get that geo up and even go into hovercraft if you want to. But certainly getting that geo up needs to be priority number one, because it's just too valuable to leave untapped. Scout plane, by the way, did manage to scout exactly what was going on. Headless, the Cyan commander, is moving on over towards the island over here. Going to be claiming the, 2 metal extractors over here. Interesting. I thought there was 3. Must have been changed recently. Meanwhile, the Tan Commander, going for a little bit of an outdated build order here, going for one of those Armada Armada ship labs, fabricator, what are they called? Shipyards. An Armada shipyard. Gosh, does Brightworks even know the game at all? Maybe I need to go back down to open skill 17 and start from the very bottom again. Again, important to grab these geothermals here. The Tank Commander likewise making the same mistake of underemphasizing the value of that geothermal. Gonna go into a submarine. Interesting. I actually don't mind it. I think the submarine can find a lot of value, especially against these early game boats that are fairly flimsy, and the submarine might be able to snag a kill on. Otherwise, for just moving across the map and snagging the economy right here. Meanwhile, while I was looking away, the Brown Commander Ion Storm managed to sneak into the enemy backline and sure, take down all their solar panels, metal extractors, wind turbines, E-converters, constructors, grunts, goblins galore. It's all melted away as Ion Storm has gotten these bad boys into the backline. Bro, what the hell, cries out the Green Commander. As, certainly, upset upset for his teammate there, his ally. Gosh, I'm a little overwhelmed here. Lots to look at, lots all over the place to analyze. Resbots have eaten up a whole bunch of the metal on the front line here. The Red Commander making a wonderful push right now with the pawns to try and capture as much of this metal as possible. There's about 2,000, maybe 3,000 metal in the middle of the map here on Supreme Isthmus. Means that once you get those Resbots working on it, that can easily fund a T2 or even a T3 transition if you stretch it far enough. 3 submarines were eventually produced right here, and they are going to be sailing their way across the map. We only have a single frigate on the line right now for the Cyan Commander Headless. It's going to be a matter of whether that frigate can get enough value on the other side of the map before those before those submarines get enough value on the right side of the map. Yeah. So far, Pawn's running away with it. This looking much more standard here with the build power and range of the geothermal. Oftentimes we'll see the build power put right about here. Means you can reach all of the metal extractors and the geothermal as well. Sort of the standard, not necessary, of course. As long as that geo comes up and running, you're going to be in a great way. Lavender Commander now. The 9 open skill Cyan 92 Lavender Commander going to be rebuilding the base here after that brutal run by. Means that the Seafoam Green Commander and the Green Commander are both going to have to push forward here. And this submarines, they need to get some value. Can we move them forward here? Right-clicking them and dragging all towards these metal extractors wouldn't be the end of the world here. You can even kind of fidget with the positioning ever so slightly just to make sure that you spread them out. But yeah, we should definitely be killing these metal extractors here. Dowie 500 doing a great job of putting units out on the field, failing to follow up, it feels like. Yeah, kind of losing track of the follow-up here. Not getting the value out of that several hundred metal that he's putting into each and every one of those submarines. Geothermal here eventually taken by the red commander. I guess I don't mind it. Yeah, if your opponent is just, or your teammate rather, is just gonna not claim it, you may as well. It's a bit strange, but I appreciate the improvisation right here from the red commander, who is up into T2 at this point. That's a fairly standard T2 timing, about 6 minutes. Usually that's around how quick you can get a T2 lab up if you dedicate yourself just to the tech here. Asoro doing a great job of pushing the front, though. Paying for that T2 with the resbots from the front line rather than sacking the comm and paying for it that way. Thugs brawling out on the front line here. Ralcorvan trying to go for an agitator. I don't mind it, I suppose. That agitator can lock down a lot of this area. 5 or so steps to the left, and it would be able to shut down this mechs over here as well. A little bit harder to defend, but it would also be able to shut down those mechs. And at the end of the day, that really is the most important part. Yellow Commander Nano manages to get a couple of these gunboats into range right here. It looks like the construction turrets are also hard at work repairing a whole bunch of this, which is always cool to see. And at the end of the day, the production will be sufficient to push those boats back. It means the frigates have to engage at different time, a different place. We will eventually see a destroyer over there, but at this point, you actually could afford to just go ahead and go for mass frigate. Now this is the issue. Headless has been given time to build some of those destroyers, and you know what the destroyers are good at is killing submarines. The entire army of the Tank Commander is just submarines, so the fact that those destroyers are up means that now these submarines are going to have a way harder time finding value. They could have killed the metal extractors, they could have denied the metal that it would have taken to build the destroyers. At this point, though, because they wasted so much time, destroyers will have an easy time cleaning them up. Just like that, the last of the Tan submarines is blasted to smithereens here. We have 3 more available, but just not on the other side of the map here. We are expanding the economy with some of those tidal generators as well, and we do have quite a bit of metal that's available. Wouldn't mind seeing some of that put into either a little bit more expansion or a little bit more tech. Anything, really, to get out onto the field. Oh, units kind of thrown away over here for the Yellow Commander. Yeah, lost a bunch of those frigates. Now the destroyer in a dire situation. Trying to fend off a frigate and a destroyer. The frigate providing vision for the destroyer to fire away. Ooh, and the last connection, 0% HP. Boom goes the yellow destroyer. Lovely stuff from the purple commander. Managing to claw back into this match from the brink of death right there. Medium tanks are in trouble. They've run up against the waterline here, and they can't step a toe in that water or else they drown under the sea. Thugs here fighting it out against those medium tanks. Obviously, the tanks are always going to be more efficient than the thugs, especially in big flat terrain like this. We do have the agitator now firing away, though. Agitator up for the brown commander, paying for it with the corpses of his enemies rather than paying for it out of pocket. And it means that this is going to be able to find value pretty quickly here. Denying a bunch of the metal extractors is, of course, valuable, but also splashing a bunch of damage onto those medium tanks makes this a very, very efficient static defense. Yeah, geothermal coming up for the red commander on the front line as well. When in Rome, build more geothermals. I guess that's not really how the saying goes, but you get the idea. Could have some more constructors building wind turbines in the backline as well. That's usually a pretty popular strategy for Armada players, especially once you get those T2 butlers up and running. These things can throw up wind turbines like it's nobody's business. And with those very cheap Armada wind turbines, you can find a lot of value very quickly just by going ahead and building a big slab of wind turbines, all one spaced out. Another easy mistake to make as a rookie, a thing that's easy to avoid doing, but hard to figure out when you're, first learning the game, is building these laser towers in front of your agitator. So the thing is, your agitator has to go on the front line, because it's, you can see right now, it's kind of doing that weird, dance, I guess. I don't know. It's doing something strange with its barrel, because it's trying to fire, but it's running into, it's colliding with the laser towers here. So if all three of these towers had just been moved backwards a step, if they had just been right behind this agitator, this wouldn't be an issue and the agitator would still be getting value. But now we have 1,300 metal on the front line, waving its barrels around in the air like it just don't care. Not necessarily able to actually do any real work. Again, it's an easy thing to fix. It's a very, very simple thing to fix. You just put those turrets a little bit further back, but in the heat of the game and in the heat of the moment, it's very difficult to realize what exactly is going on. Some unconventional play, yeah, and I mean, I'm not the biggest, I'm not a hater. Like, I do appreciate it. It certainly opens up new opportunities, right? Things that otherwise you wouldn't have thought to do before. This play on the left-hand side really hurts my heart, though. These submarines could have won the game, and just because they were a little too timid, they ended up being outclassed by the destroyers here, and now the tank commander has well lost the high seas. Destroyer is going to rapidly blast down the C2 laboratory here. That's a whopping, I didn't catch a glimpse of it, but you can go back and pause. But I'm guessing it was about 2,000 or so metal right down the drain. Tank commander goes down here as well as the T1 laboratory. Alright, so a fairly seamless win here for Headless. A little bit rocky in the early game, but ended up cleaning it up quite nicely. I'm dead, cries out Dowie. Yeah, needs a constructor. We do have the constructor in the back line. We could go for a T1 lab and rebuild back here. Probably your best bet, because already the Navy has been lost, so it's important to go ahead and try and fortify that zone as much as possible. One submarine moving its way across. Again, the submarine could still find value. Killing those metal extractors, killing the radar towers, all of it is vulnerable. Submarine's actually one of the only things that can kill those. Means you should kill those. Yeah. Well, anyway. Hounds on the front now from the red commander, finally well into unit production, going to start sending those units forward. The blue commander tapping out of the game at this point. Okay, Ralkerven has bowed out. Not entirely sure why. The blue commander still has a front line, still seems fine. The red commander went for a little bit of a comm bomb over here. I see. I see what the play was. I missed it while I was paying attention to those boats. I was so miffed about the boats, I missed the red commander moving into the blue commander's base and doing a massive morale damage. Yeah, killing the blue commander's spirit, really, more than anything else. The blue commander was still alive, could have rebuilt right here, but apparently didn't feel like it. Decided to bow out of the game, and yeah, now it means that the blue team has well control over the northern sea. They have a whopping force on the southern sea as well. Yeah, Destroyer's going to be more than happy to blast down the subs. Again, submarines so expensive, and up against destroyers, they're perfect counter. It's essentially just a waste of metal. Res subs under the sea have been picking up a lot of these boats as well, resurrecting them, refloating them, so that they can once again make their way back up to the surface. Fight for their army once again, fight for their commander once again. And I love to see it. Yeah, actually, I think it's a wonderful play. No reason not to resurrect those boats. Pay for your army with your opponent's army sort of deal. Hounds on the front line looking menacing. Do we have T3 anywhere in the works so far? Armada is building some T3 in the backline here. We have a fusion reactor up and running. Feels a little bit slow, actually. I feel like we should probably have had, feel like we might have had T3 up a little bit quicker here, yeah. I think about 17 minutes is what we're looking at for Marauder, so I guess it's not too early. It's just been a quick game on the front here. Love that red commander's play right there, though. Sparing the commander to take out the frontliner so that we can go ahead and push forward over here. There's just more hounds for the red commander. Means that they're going to trade ever so slightly more efficiently. But those slight efficiencies add up, and they also snowball out of control a lot quicker as well. Reducing the snowball effect from the enemy player. Maximizing it for yourself. I like the welders in the composition. You can see how much stability they lend, how much HP they lend to this composition. But at the end of the day, there's really only so much they can do against those very heavy-hitting, tailed robot dogs. Good old-fashioned T1 thugs marching forward. Cyan 92, stepping forward with the comm. Oh, nice D-gun right there, actually. Carves across the face of all those T1 units. Not bad. Fat Boys and Sharpshooters and all sorts of other T2 nonsense rolling into the lab right here from the Green Commander. Will it be enough? Well, It's a little bit overkill for this T1 garbage. Probably expected to see T2, not really T1. The Fat Boy, gonna do so much friendly fire damage. Solar panels going down left, right, and center. The red team wants to win this game more. That's what it feels like. It definitely feels like the red team is putting their hearts out on the line here, trying to fight as hard as they can. Feels like the blue team is just a little bit slower on the draw, trying to catch up this entire game rather than being aggressive about their plays. Despite some very unconventional playstyle from the red team. This navy is menacing. Loads of boats have been refloated right here. We have resurrected destroyers and frigates and all sorts of other stuff. Submarines in the composition as well. Lovely for taking out a whole bunch of these res subs. They have more range than the destroyer does on its depth charge launcher. It means that they can deal with those quite a bit easier. There we go. Destroyer's going to be firing away at the torpedo launchers. Yeah, making very short work of those. I think it works out quite nicely here for the purple commander. Grin in a little bit of trouble here as well. You know, we're not microing this perfectly, though. These units are just standing in the static defense. Torpedo launcher, there we go. Finally targeted down right here, doing so much damage to that destroyer, though. Grin's commander will fall, and that does mean, though, that the Southern Sea is now hotly contested by the purple commander. There's really nothing to stand in the way of all this. A couple of frigates not going to be able to kill the submarines. Submarines actually going to have a field day against them. One of the destroyers goes down. Second destroyer goes down. Okay. Nano holding on for dear life. Manages to start up the laboratory, at the very least, or finish up the laboratory, rather. Finishing the lab means that that metal, at the very least, won't go completely to waste. It'll, at the very least, float to the bottom of the sea. It can be resurrected, or at the very least, can be reclaimed. Might be a blessing and a curse here, though, because, of course, if that metal gets reclaimed by your opponent, then essentially you've just fed them a whopping 3,000 metal, rather than keeping it in your back pocket. Submarines are actually taking a lot of heat from the single torpedo launcher, my goodness. Nano in a lot of trouble here as well. The torpedo launcher, that could, though. Wow. Alright, well, the hero torpedo launcher actually saves the day now. Can't believe that that worked out. Submarine, still lingering on this northern side. Losing units all over the place. Definitely one of those things that can be improved, right? Making sure to zoom out every once in a while, pay attention to what your team can see right here. You can take a look at this and you can see it's pretty obvious. Like, we've got a unit over here somewhere, we've got a unit up here somewhere. You see the little isolated bubbles and realize that you've got potential. We're going for a full-blown T1 fortified zone. Sharpshooters well qualified to deal with T2. It's a bit of a strange interaction going on here. Do we have pinpointers up and running? We do not. So pinpointers are one of the few, like, upgrades, quote-unquote upgrades in this game. In fact, they may be the only upgrade in this game, now that I think about it. Basically what a pinpointer is it improves your radar accuracy. So this is the pinpointer. It's under your utility menu. Enhanced radar targeting. More facilities enhance accuracy. Now, that's a little misleading because you only need 3 of them. The first one increases it by about 60%. The second one increases it to about 80%. And then the third one increases it to about 95-ish%. So you really don't need more than that. Basically, 3 pinpointers will get the job done. You can put 4 down if you really want that 99% margin, but 3 is basically all you need in 90% of the cases. Anywho, essentially necessary for sharpshooters because, of course, sharpshooters operate at a range far, far greater than their line-of-sight range. It's either going for pinpointers or going for a tick spam. Obviously, the tick spam is a easier option to set up. It's just T1 labs spamming out ticks. But oftentimes that can be countered by lasers or by Juno missiles, that sort of thing. Much harder to counter the pinpointers because it just relies on radar. Heavy battleship despots rolling out of the laboratories here for both the purple and cyan commanders, using them to contest this midsection, trying to keep it nice and locked down. We do have a pulsar coming up on the front here. We also have a persecutor coming up. When you're ready to build your T2 defenses, oftentimes it's the right moment to look back at your T1 and think about things that you might reclaim. I'll give you 5 seconds to point out the one thing that should be reclaimed here from this front line. Go ahead and leave your answer down below in the comments section. Alright, you're back. It's the agitator. 1,300 metal worth of useless units in their useless structures on the front line. We're going for the fusion on the front line too. You know what? I don't even hate it. I guess that fusion is protected by more static defense here on the front line than anywhere else. Well, yeah, Starlight immediately getting some value, or Pulsar rather, immediately getting some value. Tick Spam comes online though. Uh-oh. We don't have the facilities for it. This is why none of these lasers were the right decision for what you should reclaim. The heavy lasers and Twin Guard are going to be perfect for dealing with spams of units. The Agitator, the only thing that's not really going to be able to find much value here at all. Pulsar, wow, doing great work against that Despot. Blasting it down in a single shot. I think it was 2 actually, technically, but we can exaggerate. These are stories of war. We can exaggerate a little bit. Wow. And suddenly, the red team, which seemed so aggressive, so eager to play this game earlier on, has kind of fallen back on themselves. They've retreated back into their shell and is now suffering greatly at the fact that there's a swarm of very, very light bots headed directly towards them. There's a host of different ways, a variety of different ways you can deal with the tick spam. One of the most consistent and probably cheapest long-term is the Juno missile. Other options include things like static defense towers, LLTs, medium laser towers, that sort of thing. T3 Lab coming up here for the Red Commander. I like this call out here from the the Powder Blue Commander, Windy Binde. Going for a little bit of air to help your teammate out can be quite valuable. Yeah. That anti-air to shut down some of those early fighters coming across can mean that the defensive fighters from your air player can have a much nicer time. Oftentimes that can be the difference between winning or losing, is just how well the bombing run connects. Missile boats here firing away as well, trying to target down that geothermal. Yeah, blue team now on the aggressive here. Torpedo bombers come out, but we do have anti-air mixed in. Those Aerostorm anti-air ships going to be firing away a barrage of flak and tracking anti-air missiles. The ticks are sneaking through and popping these E-converter clusters all over the place.
Battle paused.
A little bit of a battle pause.
Started.
The Marauder now rolling out of the lab here for the Red Commander. Commander who wants to build a bunch of construction towers doesn't quite have room for it. Apparently that... oh no, pardon me. This constructor is just trying his best. Living his best converter life, E-converter life. Yeah, Fighter Pole manages to shoot those fighters down before they can kill all of the torpedo bombers. Torpedo bombers are a strange thing. They can snowball very quickly once you have just a few of them. Tank Commander building back into this game too is always cool to see. Trying their very best to keep a calm head and keep building back into that that T2 naval contest. And we still have a submarine over here. Still one hero submarine looking at the backline right here. I mean, it could, you know, I suppose we could argue that this is being saved for the late game, right? Sneaking in and popping the T2E converters and the build power over here, like it's all a decent target. It does feel like you're kind of risking it though. You're essentially planning for failure at that point, which is, you know, essentially you're planning to make advantage of your opponent's mistakes, and that's always a tricky way to play a strategy game. Have we got enough aphises in the backline yet for the Green Commander? Well, it looks like the answer is no. We're going to keep expanding right here. We do have more build power coming up, and we do have more and more E-converters coming up here as well. A lot of that energy being overflowed to the team, which is actually a good thing, right? Overflowing that energy means that all of them can spend their metal. Budanov, the Green Commander here, having a little bit of trouble. Oh, didn't mean to jump back. I wanted to just see what the Green Commander was up to. Going to be going for an economy of themselves. We need a little bit more build power, though, it looks like. Yeah. Trying to set up that late game economy needs a little bit more build power to actually spend some of that late game metal. Marauder are nice, but on a single Aphis economy, it's going to be rough to produce just Marauder. Sharpshooters are quite good here too, firing away out into the sea and out into those boats. Is it efficient enough though? I'm not entirely sure. It's points like this where you have to start looking at ways to end a game. I think one option right now would be nuclear weapons. Looks like, yeah, large parts of the red team are uncovered by anti-nuke. Oftentimes well worth it to invest in a little bit of nuclear deterrent, especially in the late game, where often it can be found having immense effect. T3 Naval Lab has been produced over here, and it looks like we're going to be going for cataphracts. The experimental gantry, the large amphibious experimental gantry, can be used to produce a swath of different units. I didn't know this thing could make Salamander. Well, that's actually pretty interesting. So Salamander are an amphibious tank. They fire a heat ray, which actually makes them a little bit unique in the sense that they have a bit of a weird range fall off. The closer they get to a unit, the more damage they do. It's sharpshooters all around here. The red commander spamming out sharpshooters to deal with some of the gunslinger. The marauders stepping forward into the sharpshooters of the green commander here, who is trying desperately to shut them down. Marauder need to get their value out. Yeah, they've been essentially static this entire time. Would you believe there was an entire brown fortification here with a pulsar and a whole bunch of other stuff? It's long since been removed now. Capital ship up and running. Sailing its way towards the enemy side of the map here. Certainly a lot of valuable stuff within range right now. Fusion reactor here for the red commander would be an ideal target. T3 lab as well. We do have mass duck coming up. Huh. Okay. The orange commander looking to take back the high seas with nothing more than the power of the mighty duck. Can't wait to see it. Torpedo bombers doubling down, or doubling around, trying to connect with that Aerostorm. The heavier boats actually in the way right here. Nicely done. There we go. Anti-air boat does eventually go down, but it buys enough time for the fighters to actually swoop in, the proper anti-air defense. And there'll be more than enough to shoot down those torpedo bombers over there. How are we gonna close out this game? Sharpshooters on the front are gonna be perfect for blasting apart this static defense. I think they are basically the ideal unit for this entire situation right here. With the ticks running forward, they're gonna be 100% accurate. Means that every shot they take will be a shot that hits. And almost assuredly a shot that kills. Very few things, especially in the early game, even in the T2 stage, very few things that can survive a direct shot from a sharpshooter. One of which apparently being a chainsaw. I had no idea. Slouse in a lot of trouble though, standing right next to all that. Oh, the commander's looking very thin. Boom goes the commander, Cyan right next to him. Both commanders going down, tear apart this front line, and just like that, open it up for harassment. Sharpshooters, very OP. The power of the sharpshooter, unparalleled at this point. Torpedo bombers having a rough time. You have to be very careful microing torpedo bombers around coastlines, otherwise they'll do that. Yeah. You have to pull them out to sea and then have them drop their payload and then pull them back to sea. You have to have them constantly dropping the bombs over the water, otherwise they will just be, yeah, wasted bombers. It's a unfortunate part about microing those, but it is something to be aware of, otherwise you're just never going to find the right value out of those units. They are expensive, too. 1 million ducks. Anti-duck cataphracts here, included into the mixture to launch those depth charges and blow apart those very, very obtrusive, those very obnoxious ducks under the waves, firing away their torpedoes, rapidly melting down even the sturdiest of T2 boats. I think we could go for more duck production, right? Yeah, we've got 3 APHIS economy here. I feel like we could afford to go for double ducks. What is the green commander going to be doing? Razorbacks. Okay, not bad. Yeah, I appreciate the T3. We're getting a couple of those Juno up and running as well, which is going to be quite nice. Sharpshooter appear to have been lost. Unfortunate. Ducks, hopelessly unuseful against these cataphracts. They don't really have a way to engage against them. Providing at most vision of the things, but not really able to do much about it. Fighters falling out of the sky, left, right, and center over here. A massive clash of forces. A clash of clans, if you will. Thank you. Thank you. Heavy bombers trudging their way towards the red base. Not sure what on earth they're targeting. What on earth? Okay, there we go. Bombers finally retargeted here. Will actually start aiming for the Aphis. Boom goes the red Aphis directly in the middle of that red base, taking down a huge swath of the red production. Yeah, that's a killer move right there. Going to be very difficult to deal with. The mass fat boy spam too. My goodness. You know, one of the things about mass fat boy is they're extremely, extremely vulnerable to sharpshooters. They're so slow, they're so sluggish, they have a really hard time doing anything against sharpshooters. I think mass sharpshooter here could have won this front line if they had stayed alive. This match looking quite hopeless now for the blue team. The fact that they've lost both navies is quite a bummer. My goodness, are we gonna... Okay. It's time. I'm so glad I caught it. It's finally time. The submarine reveals itself. The grand reopening of the submarine. This guy has been alive longer than probably every other unit, aside from the commanders, in this entire game. The build power goes down. There are more valuable targets here than I think the constructors. Or the laboratory. Why are we saving so many? Why do we have so many of these saved up but not on the other side of the map here? Don't know why we're only attacking with 2 siege submarines of all things. Some very choice decision making there. Marauder. Oh no, poking their heads up right now. Oh yikes. They were sitting there taking cannon fire. They didn't realize that their heads were sticking above water. It was like a shark fin, right? It's like sticking up out of the air. You can see exactly where it is. Yeah, Ticks have managed to breach the defenses, and now they're moving into the back line. Great idea with ducks, says the red commander. Yeah, I think I agree. I think ducks are a wonderful idea. I think the cataphracts were a perfect solution there. Oh no. Cataphract's about to be the most beautiful solution to this issue I've ever seen. Start launching their laser beams, start launching their depth charges. The submarines are in shambles. The ducks are now ravaged. This is a beautiful engagement right here. Oh, okay, submarine's going to be great against the boats, though. Ducks likewise. Cataphracts, oh, listen to that sound. Isn't that beautiful? One more time. Pew, 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 pew. Ah, the sound work on those is so beautiful. They really do remind me of those beautiful laser tanks, those Star Wars laser tanks. They were the Trade Federation, right? I think they were Trade Federation laser tanks, if I remember correctly. The red team in complete shambles, with the Ticks continuing to spam forward with a massive army knocking on their door. It's only a matter of time before the blue team pulls the trigger. We'll go ahead and speed things up because I think the time is 9. Fat Boy's standing in a big line here, the slowest moving, hardest hitting army I've ever seen. Razorback's going to be quite a bit faster, quite a bit sturdier, quite a bit better overall. They're about to crash upon the front line here of the red team and obliterate it. Oh, well, unless they stick around and let the Pulsar blast them to pieces. Okay. One of them goes down. The capital ship making short work of it, though. Sprinters and Ticks and whatnot running through. We've got the orange base popped here by a couple of hero Ticks. Yeah, look at that. These are gold star generals now blasting apart this advanced fusion reactor. Obviously targeting the one that might explode may be a better option here. Likely that those Ticks are completely unnoticed by the Cyan Commander Duke 17. Dragons in the air. Okay. I don't mind the dragons, actually. I think they're decent. They can do decently against, navies. They do still struggle a lot, though. Yeah, Navy anti-air is quite powerful. The T2 anti-air, I mean. And nuke does go down here. It's the other weird thing about cataphracts is they technically are anti-air as well. Slow but steady anti-air. Razorbacks here making a wonderful case for exactly why that Armada T3 looks so oppressive, though. Down goes the red team. The final commander falls, and just like that, the blue team with a wonderful little comeback. I certainly thought they were done for when that front line collapsed, and the red commander made that massive play. but the rest of the team unable to capitalize. And so in this matchup, beyond all reason, it'll be our blue heroes who managed to pull it back from the brink of destruction to claim their victory. Duke producing the most resources at 100,042 million resources total. Wonderful eco scaling and a wonderful gameplay. Thanks a ton for watching. I sure hope you enjoyed it, and I sure hope to see you in the very next game of Beyond All Reason. Peace out, everybody.